in the way that the highest self desires spiritual cultivation with moral qualities, and that is Swaraj, being in government. See the similarity between Confucian wisdom and the wisdom of India. I'm sure Raviji is going to throw light on many of the civilizational cooperation milestones between India and China. This, friends, is the beginning, as I said, of an agenda that we have. The agenda is revival of India-China friendship. We can only make a modest contribution, but that modest contribution will make with utmost conviction in Mumbai. The Observer Research Foundation will take the initiative of establishing India-China Friendship Society. We'll bring together people from industry, from academics, from the field of arts, cinema, so that we get to know China better and we invite China to understand India better. With these words, friends, I thank all of you for taking time out to attend this lecture. It's going to be an enlightening lecture, a very useful lecture, and I'm sure all of you will keep coming back to ORF to attend and participate in the many other events that we have in mind to promote India-China friendship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni. Our guest, Mr. Ravi Bhoothalingam, probably needs no introduction, but I'll just say a few words. He's founder and chairman of Manas Advisory, a consultancy practice focusing on leadership coaching and India-China business development. Until June 2001, he was president of the Oberoi Group of Hotels. He has been chairman of the National Committee on Tourism and Heritage of the Confederation of Indian Industry. He's also a member of the Review Committee for the Archaeological Survey of India. And he served on the India National Tourism Advisory Council. He's traveled extensively in and around China, and his travels included expeditions on the Silk Route, journeys in Mongolia across the Tibetan Plateau to Mount Kailas and Lake Manasrovar. He's convener on tourism for the Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar Forum, and is also known as the Kunming Initiative. And he leads the China-India CEO Forum for the Confederation of Indian Industry. He's actually just recently returned from a trip through Mongolia, and we look forward to hearing about his adventures. So without further ado, I request Shri Ravi Bhoothalingam to please deliver his lecture. Thank you. And I just want to ask everyone to please make sure they have their phone turned off. So please turn off your mobiles. Thank you.
Consul John, Sudhindra, friends. First of all, many thanks for having come here in such large and enthusiastic numbers. And thank you, Sudhindra, for the very kind introduction and for arranging this session. I do hope that it's going to be as enlightening, productive and fun as I would like it to be. Because I certainly find this subject an extremely fascinating one, and I'm going to try in my own way to convey some of this fascination. As Sudhindra said, years ago, Professor Joseph Needham, we mentioned, one of the greatest scholars on China ever in the history of mankind, he produced a 26-volume set called Science and Civilization in China. He was for a very short while, and I was privileged to have that connection, my mentor when I was a student. I was a student way back in the mid-60s in Cambridge, England. I was a science student studying experimental psychology there. and Professor Needham was the principal, as they call master, as they say there, of my college. Now this was way back in 1966, and in that year, the first ever students from China, what was then called Red China, closed to the rest of the world at that time, they arrived in Cambridge. And because Professor Needham was so well known in China, he had managed to get these 4 boys, all boys, from China assigned to our college. So they came there for a short 1-year course. Now ours was a very small college, and there were very few students from outside the UK, just 3 or 4 of us, and from east of Suez, as it was then known, it was only myself and another boy from Singapore. So Professor Needham, who's a scientist himself, he got to know me a little bit. He said, Ravi, why don't you look after these 4 boys, show them around and tell them what is what. I was very hesitant. I said, Master, we fought a war against these guys just a few years ago. Do you think this is a very wise thing you're doing? He said, no, please do it. And then he said something which has always resonated in my head. He said, Ravi, you must learn to take the long view. Take the long view. And that is something which I keep remembering now. Because in some way, that and my association with these young men instigated a interest in and fascination in China which has never gone away. After that, of course, I went into industry. I did a whole lot of things. China faded into the background of my life for a while, until again about 15 years ago it resurfaced, somehow, strangely, as these things happened, with redoubled vigor. And then I have been traveling and trying to unravel some of the fascination for China, of China, and about China in my own way. And because of my own training, as I said, in psychology and science, I've tried to unravel it in a slightly different way from the traditional model in the West, which is the Western model tries to look at things from an economic, political framework and try and deduce everything from that. Economics is the basis of everything, is what traditional Western thinking says. But Indian thought, and as we will see, Chinese thought, actually goes one step deeper. And it says nothing is at the source except man himself. Man is at the source. So if we understand the thinking and the mind, then we may never understand anything fully, but we'll be a little bit closer. So that was the rather ambitious thought in my mind when I started all this, and I said, let me try and discover this by physical travel, by actually foot slogging through all these places, talking to people, and trying to piece everything together in a kind of journey of discovery, because our own philosophers in India also believed that the best way to learn things is by the art of pilgrimage. Now, pilgrimage is not just going and praying somewhere, but it's actually going with your fellow man and trying to discover things. So this is the journey, and I hope to convey, as I said, some of the excitement of this to you. Now, what I'm going to talk about is China 2020, Confucian Democracy with a big question mark. Now, China has been a conundrum to many people.